all those moments will be lost in time.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the beauty community. I want to preface this very briefly by saying two things. The issues I'm going to talk about today are by no means all of the issues. These are just the ones that I really wanted to focus on, and I might make a second video with the pettier issues or issues I didn't include in this video. The second thing, when I'm talking about certain of these issues, I might put pictures of examples on screen. That might be an influencer, that might be a particular scandal. I'm not trying to really aim for anyone here. I'm just going to include what I thought of first, so it's not shade, it's literally just what came to mind when I think of X or Y. That being said, I'm going to be looking down a lot because I have a couple pages of Word documents to get through. These are some that I consider to be the big issues. Lack of transparency, lack of diversity, oversaturation, and ostentation.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
So one of the main things you guys also brought up on Twitter since I asked you guys there was undisclosed sponsorships and undisclosed affiliate links. Lack of transparency also pertains to influencers who put the hashtag ad in white when they have a white background in a tiny font so people won't notice it. That's shady. To me, this is something that is deeper than, oh, they just didn't tell us. To me, it's particularly shady and it makes me immediately suspicious because if a favorite influencer of mine is sponsored, I want to know that they're sponsored because I'm seeing an advertisement. If you don't tell me that what I'm seeing in an advertisement and you're portraying it as merely your opinion that you weren't paid for, there's a difference. Because when I watch an advertisement, I'm very aware that someone's trying to sell me something. When I'm watching an influencer, that's not necessarily the case because unless they disclose it's a sponsorship, I won't assume it's a sponsorship because, I suppose I have a high standard where I expect people to not fucking lie all the time. And then there's undisclosed affiliate links. And to me, this is just as bad as not disclosing sponsorships because in the end, they both involve money. The difference between a sponsorship and affiliate links is that a sponsorship is a set price. They'll tell you, we'll pay you X amount to do a video review of our brand, for example, and that's an X amount. Whereas affiliate links are like a commission. So the more people click on it, the more they make. So it's not like you'll get a flat $500. No, it really depends on how many people click on the links and end up buying products via your links. So in both situations, you're making money off of it. So it's only fair to disclose that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I like that my influencers get paid. I like that my favorite beauty people get paid, but tell me. Then there's another form of lack of transparency, which is more literal, which includes smoothing filters and tutorials or color correcting via editing footage. So if you're color correcting with your makeup, that's fine because anyone can color correct as long as they follow your tutorial. However, in real life, you can't color correct your face via an app on your phone or via a program on your computer. So when influencers use smoothing filters and color correct the video, that is misleading because you're telling me you're using foundation shade whatever. If that foundation shade looks like it matches you on camera, I might end up thinking, oh, we have the same shade. I might go get it, but then I'll find out that you color corrected because in real life, the shade is darker or lighter. So it is misleading. And while I don't think it's necessarily malevolent, like I don't necessarily think the influencer is like, I'm going to color correct so they're not going to know. Like I don't think that's the mentality whatsoever. But we have created a beauty community culture where showing pores and shit like that is pretty rare. I can name the few people that are actually quite transparent about their skin and don't use smoothing filters that like make their skin look like it's not even skin anymore. And the thing is, if you do that on Instagram, I think it's kind of expected on Instagram, though I'm not really a fan of it there either. You know, there's a difference between hiding a pimple and making your skin look like it's melted wax. Also, if it's a tutorial, if you're using smoothing filters or color correcting via the program, it's not really a tutorial because you're altering it in a way without telling me. The point of a tutorial is to walk me through it. And if I need to color correct on a program and it'll look like shit in real life, what's the point of the tutorial unless you're just doing your makeup for pictures, which is fine, but a lot of people are doing it because they're gonna leave the house. So on that note, face tuning pictures to hell. Now, this is probably not an unpopular opinion. I don't particularly like Facetune. I don't use Facetune. I feel like it would fuck me up. And if you use Facetune to enhance what you've already done, to make the reds pop like they do in real life or whatever, you know, sometimes you take a picture of your makeup look and it doesn't look the same as it does in real life. If you edit it to mirror what it looks like in real life, I usually have no problems. That being said, there are plenty of people who also make their highlights so excessively bright that you know that that's not possibly like that in real life. Skin doesn't look like skin. Foundation looks more like it was painted on, not actually put on, like there's no texture to the skin. And while some of these things may be aesthetically pleasing to a lot of people, I just don't feel like I relate to that person. I just feel like there's a distance immediately put between myself and a person when they do that, because I'm like, nothing that I see here is something I relate to, because we all have some texture in our skin. We all have some pores, bigger or smaller, but to erase them and pretend that they're not there doesn't really help me. I'd rather someone give me a hack on how to make them look smaller. Then we have biased reviews based on sponsorship, the receiving of PR, or to get in good graces. Now, let me clarify. I'm not saying that everyone who does sponsorships is biased. However, I do feel like certain people inevitably will be biased because they are sponsored. Now, of course, influencers can always turn down a sponsorship, but I can imagine that some people might feel uncomfortable or even be pressured by companies once the company sends you the product and they're like, well, I thought you were gonna do this, you kind of agreed to it, and they pressure you into thinking that you have no way to back out. And so then you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because you're like, am I gonna say the truth or am I gonna please this brand that's paying me to say these things? So ideally, we want people to say the truth. But do I think that that's always gonna happen? No, and I don't necessarily think it's always because influencers want to lie as much as they're caught in this weird kind of courteous situation where you have to be tactful and saying you don't like things might piss people off. So then also on that note, receiving PR. I definitely feel like there's some people who kiss ass of certain brands because they're receiving PR. So like, let's say Kylie Cosmetics. If you suddenly say that a product in your PR box was not that great or you don't find it innovative, you could be taken off the PR list. So some people will consistently say, oh, this Kylie Cosmetics stuff is over the moon, best thing ever, so they stay on the PR list. So it is a form of bias because you're really doing it out of fear. And in that note, to get in good graces, I feel like some people will kiss ass of brands, so then the brand sends them PR. Does that make sense? So like someone might buy Kylie Cosmetics, be like, this is the best thing ever, you know, you cured my depression with this foundation or whatever the fuck. And then Kylie comes across that, or someone in her team comes across that, and then you get sent PR. So effectively, you can use brands as strategic power moves rather than this is my review and it's as simple as that. So that's the end of the lack of transparency chapter. So lack of diversity, I'm talking about multiple types of diversity. First of all, men in beauty. A lot of the top people in beauty are men. Like some of the top players we seem to never be able to get away from are men. We have Manny MUA, we have Jeffree Star, we have a whole series of people that are effectively at the top. I mean, I don't know if Manny MUA is still at the top, but anyway. However, smaller male creators definitely get less attention, in my opinion, than female creators, and especially male creators that are not white. So it's diversity in two ways. First subcategory is men, second subcategory is men who are not white. So those groups, definitely there's a lack of diversity. Aside from that, there is a general lack of diversity in non-white creators. Like, of course, there are some Black creators, Latino creators, of course, but not as many as I would like to see. And most of the time, I feel like there's one or two people who are like, oh, this person represents like the Black beauty community. I can think of people who kind of stand as the figures of Black beauty influencers or Latino beauty influencers, but it's like, there should be more than just one or two people representing a demographic, surely, right? So that doesn't make sense to me, especially because there are like a billion white influencers. It's not like these are the two white beauty people. That's ridiculous. We need more diversity in that respect as well. Smaller creators across the board don't get the attention they deserve because of numbers. Even though a lot of small creators actually have really good engagement rates, I see so many small creators that are extremely talented. In fact, I'm gonna link some in the description. I'll link their Instagram Instagram. So I see a lot of small creators who I think are really innovative, really creative, who don't get the attention. And on the other hand, I see these large creators that they're not terrible, but they're not great. They're not doing anything brand new, you know, copper eye, nude lip. Okay, girl, bye. We've seen that. So a lot of the top creators are doing these boring ass looks that no one really gives a fuck about because they're so overdone that it's like, yes, we know you can do looks with nudes. And I'm all for nudes, but it's like I would like to see some of the opportunities going to people who are really doing something that's out there. So here, the lack of diversity is a creative diversity. In another way that relates back to what I was saying about having different people between white people, people of color, black people, we also have issues with foundation ranges. Now, a lot of brands are trying to be more progressive about this. A lot of brands are jumping onto the bandwagon for, in my opinion, not because they actually care, but because they can see that it's making money, then they get looked at as if they're progressive, even though who knows. That's also an issue. And ironically, I see certain creators bash brands that don't have 60 foundation shades, but then they'll also support another brand who has the exact same issue. So there's also a kind of double standard that certain brands can kind of get away with having like 2 foundation ranges and they're fine, but somebody else is not fine. So people do not keep the same energy, and I think we all know this by now. In addition, there's another version of lack of diversity wherein it seems like the same handful of creators receive collaborations with the same handful of brands, such as Jaclyn Hill and Morphe, or Jackie Aina, Carly Bible, and Amrezy with Anastasia Beverly Hills. And I have no issues with these people having collaborations. What I have an issue with is that it seems to me that it's almost always the same people who are having collaborations with brand X or brand Y. It's always the same people. In fact, the few times that it's someone different, I tend to remember because otherwise it's the same faces. It's Laura Lee, it's Manny MUA, it's Jaclyn Hill, it's James Charles. I'm over it, okay? And I don't particularly dislike these people. I tendentially don't really care for them because I'm bored, honestly. I feel like we've been stuck with them and I want new. I want some new. That's essentially the bottom line of this fucking rant, is I want new faces, okay? Anastasia Beverly Hills releasing the 3 Norvina palettes, the mini palettes, the glitter, the lashes, along with all the fucking collaborations in less than a year, that to me is absolutely insane. And what makes me laugh, and you know, I said I wasn't gonna be shady, but
no. Well,
what makes me laugh is the same people who are going on about like, don't support fast fashion, are supporting fast beauty. So, I mean, is there really that big of a difference? Are things overproduced? Are things rushed out? Do things seem to be done as cash grabs? Are they done in good conditions, or is it underpaid people perhaps in China producing these things? That's up to you to decide. I think we know the answer to that one. Also, I feel like because there's this oversaturation, like because palettes are coming out left and right consistently, lip colors coming out left and right, I feel like it also puts pressure on creators. Now, I'm not a beauty creator, but if I put myself in the shoes of someone who's receiving all this fucking PR, like imagine receiving the 3 Norvina palettes, then the mini Norvina palettes, then the lashes, then the glitter, and that's from one brand, along with the Jackie Aina collaboration, the Carly Bible collaboration, the Alyssa Edwards collaboration. That to me would be so overwhelming that I feel like it would push me into a creative block, because it's like suddenly you're swamped with all these palettes. Personally, it would be harder to be really inspired when I just feel like a bunch of shit is thrown at me. That's just my perspective, and I could be wrong, you know, I'm not a beauty person, thank the Lord. Also, and I don't hold this against the creators at all, but it's also a thing where a lot of people will receive the PR on the same day or within the same few days. So if you're looking at people's Instagram stories, if you're looking at people's PR unboxings on YouTube, you're probably gonna see the same thing over and over. And like I said, this is not the creator's fault, but it again creates oversaturation, because not only are we painfully aware of the billion Norvina palettes, but it's also like I have to see 20 million people unbox them. And of course, what can you say? unfollow them. That's fine, but I still want to support them. So it's kind of like you want to tap through to give them the engagement, but at the same time, it's like, do I really need to see an extra person open another fucking Norvina palette? It might seem like I'm getting really annoyed with Norvina, and actually it's because I really like Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I just did not like that move business-wise. I don't think it was a good idea. I know a lot of people didn't think it was a good idea, and I typically like their stuff, which is why I was kind of upset, because it's a little less Anastasia Beverly Hills in my head, and now it's like ColourPop #2, because ColourPop is releasing palettes up the wazoo, but that's their brand, because they are a fast beauty brand, being realistic. They're like Forever 21, always new shit that says like avocados. Ridiculously luxurious and wasteful PR packages. Now, I think one of the people that comes to mind first with this one, it was Jaclyn Hill with the hairy metal glass contaminated lipsticks. I remember seeing Shane Dawson open his PR box that had all these like fake little diamonds, and it was a light up, and it was like all this cardboard. It was over the top wasteful. It was absolutely wasteful, and I'm just saying that example because that one stuck with me, but pretty much every brand has a lot of wasteful PR that has drawers or like these massive boxes that then have a product that's like this big in them. So this is companies across the board, and while I understand wanting to make a statement with your PR box, how about you just make the quality of what's in it the statement? It doesn't have to be that deep, and it just causes a lot of trash. Aside from that, let's talk about what's inside the PR boxes, because one of the things that bothers me is also when, say, I think it was when Morphe released their foundations, Jaclyn Hill showed, I think it was the PR box with all the motherfucking shades. There were like 60 of them, and I'm like, who, like, if you are a beauty influencer and brands constantly send you every single shade, at some point you're gonna run out of people to give it to, and hopefully I'd hope people would donate it to like shelters or God knows, somewhere where people can use it. But at the same time, I'm like, if a brand is gonna send out PR, I know there are certain brands that send 2 or 3 shades because they can't pinpoint exactly which one, but they can tell that you're between one of the 3. That to me makes sense, because you can probably still manage to use them using the right concealer or the right bronzer. That is still acceptable, but to send 40 shades to people, 60 shades to people, that makes no sense to me. And it's kind of the same thing with brow products, for example. If they're sending it to someone with black hair who usually has dark brows, to send them the whole, like from blonde to black, I don't get the point. We also have brand trips to what I would call exotic locations. And I say exotic because I'm thinking of like when they go to the Caribbean or some little island in the middle of nowhere, essentially. So a place that is far for pretty much anyone coming from anywhere. I have to say, brand trips don't particularly bother me if they're not ridiculous, in the sense of if you get LA influencers and they drive to Palm Springs, to me that doesn't scream, you know, this is super problematic, because it's like, what, a couple hours of a car ride. And it's not like you're making all these people take a private jet, or you're not making them take a plane for a weekend away to promote a mascara or something. So I do feel like I am flexible on brand trips in the sense of if it's not over the top and it's just kind of like going to a party that's over a weekend because it's technically a trip, not a big issue. But to have private jet trips for releases, like I remember Kylie Skin did something like that, I find that absolutely ridiculous. And while I can understand wanting to make a statement and be really out there, it's also like, does the environment really need this? Does the launch of your fucking walnut glass scrub that everyone hated, is it worth going to fucking Turks and Caicos to launch that? Is it? Most of the time, no. It's not necessarily badly intentioned, but I just think that it's an ostentation that doesn't need to be there, especially since the same people who are always going on these trips. Now, I'm not, you know, if an influencer goes on these trips, I don't think anything less of them. I'm talking about the brands, because the brands need to make the change. Brands who want to be environmentally friendly and send people fucking metal straws, but then have these crazy ass trips, it just doesn't really align. I'm not blaming brands for wanting to have these crazy trips, because of course it entices people. People are interested, but at the same time, you can't be both. You can't be, oh, the environment, and then just like fly people on private jets willy-nilly. You know, you kind of have to pick a battle and stick with it. That was my little rant about the problems with the beauty community. You can let me know in the comments down below what you think the issues are. And like I said, these are just some of the ones that came to mind. Let me know if you want me to do a version with the smaller issues, such as PR searches on Twitter and other things that are annoying, but not necessarily to the degree of being considered problematic or unethical. So let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let's get right into the fan art.